Whispers from the dust. The Watcher. The sun had long since dipped below the horizon, leaving the landscape of Ashen'tall bathed in the dim glow of twilight. The sky, a deepening shade of indigo, was dotted with faint stars that struggled to pierce through the thick haze that perpetually hung over this land. The wind, ever present, whispered across the barren plains, carrying with it the scent of dry earth and something else, something that lingered just beyond the edge of perception. Evelyn tightened the scarf around her neck as she trudged up the rocky incline. She had heard stories of this place, of the strange occurrences and the eerie silence that seemed to swallow up all who ventured here. But Evelyn was different from the others. She wasn't a lost soul looking for answers or a wanderer seeking refuge from the ghosts of her past. She was a seeker of knowledge, a scholar in search of the truths buried deep within the forgotten corners of the world. At the top of the hill she paused, catching her breath and scanning the horizon. In the distance, barely visible through the murky air, stood the structure she had come to find. A solitary tower, ancient and weathered, its silhouette stark against the darkening sky. According to the old texts she had studied, this tower was known as the Watcher, a place of power and mystery, said to hold the secrets of Ashen'tall within its crumbling walls. With renewed determination, Evelyn set off toward the tower, her boots crunching on the gravel-strewn path. As she approached, the air grew colder, and the wind seemed to change, carrying with it a low, mournful sound that sent a shiver down her spine. She knew better than to be afraid, but there was something about this place that made even her steady heart quicken. The tower loomed before her now, its stone walls pitted and scarred by centuries of exposure to the elements. The entrance, a heavy wooden door bound with rusted iron, stood slightly ajar, as if waiting for her. Evelyn hesitated for a moment, her hand resting on the hilt of the dagger at her side. She wasn't expecting danger, but in Ashen'tall, it was wise to be prepared. Pushing the door open with a creak, she stepped inside, her eyes adjusting to the dim interior. The air was thick with dust, and the faint smell of decay lingered in the corners. The walls were lined with shelves, each one packed with ancient scrolls and crumbling tomes. A spiral staircase wound its way up the center of the tower, disappearing into the darkness above. Evelyn moved carefully, her fingers brushing over the spines of the books, feeling the rough texture of the worn leather. These were the records of a lost age, the writings of those who had come before, seeking the same truths that now called to her. She could feel the weight of their knowledge pressing down on her, a burden she had willingly taken upon herself. As she reached the base of the staircase, she paused, listening. There was a sound, faint and rhythmic, like the steady ticking of a clock. But there were no clocks in Ashen'tall, at least none that she had ever encountered. The sound grew louder as she ascended the stairs, the wooden steps creaking under her weight. At the top of the stairs, she found herself in a small chamber, its walls lined with more shelves, and in the center, an ancient mechanism, an orrery, its gears and cogs turning slowly, casting long, flickering shadows across the room. The orrery was like nothing she had ever seen, its design both intricate and otherworldly. It depicted not just the movements of the stars and planets, but something more, something that seemed to extend beyond the boundaries of the known universe. Evelyn approached the device, her eyes wide with wonder. This was what she had been searching for, the key to understanding the mysteries of Ashen'tall. She reached out, her fingers brushing against the cold metal, and as she did, the mechanism began to speed up, the ticking growing louder, more insistent. Suddenly, the room was filled with a blinding light, and Evelyn staggered back, shielding her eyes. When the light faded, she found herself standing not in the tower, but in the midst of a vast, swirling void. The stars spun around her in a dizzying dance, and she could feel the pull of something immense and powerful at the center of it all. "Who are you?" A voice echoed in the void, deep and resonant, filling her mind with its presence. Evelyn struggled to find her voice. "I am Evelyn. I came seeking knowledge, answers." The voice seemed to consider her words, the void pulsing with its energy. "Knowledge is power, but it is also a burden. Are you prepared to bear it?" Evelyn felt a surge of fear, but also a deep resolve. "I am." There was a long silence, And then the voice spoke again, softer this time, almost a whisper. Very well. The Watcher has seen you, and now you will see as well. The void around her began to shift, the stars aligning into patterns that she could barely comprehend. Images flashed before her eyes, visions of worlds long forgotten, of beings beyond her understanding, and of a darkness that lurked at the edges of everything, waiting for its moment to strike. And then, just as suddenly as it had begun, it was over. Evelyn found herself back in the tower, the orrery still turning slowly, as if nothing had happened. But she knew better. The knowledge she had sought was now hers, but with it came a heavy price. As she descended the staircase, her mind raced with the visions she had seen. She had glimpsed something vast, something that stretched far beyond the boundaries of Ashen'tall, and she knew that her quest was far from over. There were more answers to be found, more truths to uncover, but she also knew that the darkness she had seen was real, and it was coming. Evelyn left the tower as the first light of dawn touched the horizon. The wind still whispered its secrets, but now she could understand them, and they filled her with a sense of urgency. The Watcher had given her its knowledge, and now it was up to her to use it, to prepare for what was to come. As she walked away from the tower, her footsteps steady and determined, she knew that she was no longer just a seeker of knowledge. She was now a guardian of it, and the weight of that responsibility settled heavily on her shoulders. But she would carry it, for there was no turning back now. If you like this standalone story from the world of Whispers from the Dust and would love more, like and subscribe.